Hey, what's going on, guys? Tim Lloyd here with my man Jeff Hobbs, and it is recap day. We are fresh off the heels of a very exciting Aries Fight Series 5. It went down this past Friday night, March the 4th, from the world-famous Cotton Eye Joe in Knoxville, Tennessee. Jeff, fun night of fights, hot crowd, a lot of weird fights, and we're going to go over the whole card here today.
Yeah, hot in a couple of reasons. The weather has changed. And so, last show we were wearing hoodies, and this time we were sweat rolling down your back. So, warm weather was upon us finally, but it fit the mood because, like you said, it was a hot crowd again. A lot of fighters with a lot of support and a lot of fanfare in the seats. So, once again, the Joe delivered, Knoxville delivered, and our fighters delivered.
Yeah, man, it's all we can ask. 5 shows in now and 5 successful ones. So we're off and popping. Before we get rolling, I would give you guys a quick chance to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It would do us a big solid here as we try to grow our numbers here at the 0 hour. And you'll get notifications whenever we post the fights. And these fights will be posted here after 30 days. We're just a couple weeks off of getting the fights from Macon up here. Also get our social media follow. Facebook at Aries Fights, Instagram at Aries Fight Series. We appreciate it so much. And I guess without further ado, let's get into this, man. We open things up. First off, if you want to catch the replay, it's on Spectation Sports. We can't post it on YouTube for 30 days. If you go to Spectation Sports, you can catch it on demand. And I'd suggest doing that. There's a lot of good action on there. Let's dive on in, Jeff. We started off with a grappling bout that I didn't even realize was combat BJJ. I was under the understanding that we weren't slapping at all. I go back and, it's the first match of the night. So we're up and down and I'm back and forth at the ticket table and talking to people. I turn around and it's over. And I said, hey, what happened? And apparently there was a disqualification and Mac Payne gets the win here by disqualification over Austin Upchurch. Apparently there was a slap thrown while standing. You can only slap when you're on the ground. I had to go back and watch the replay to catch it, but I was surprised they were slapping it at all. They were like, was that, he's slapping? It was like, well, it wasn't combat BJJ. They're like, oh, they're slapping the shit out of each other the whole time. Your take here, Jeff. Mac Payne from Agogi gets the win. Didn't look like he was too enthralled with the getting the win that way. Kind of an awkward ending there.
Yeah, it was awkward all around because, like you said, the match had started. Our attention was still kind of in that, show opening, situation where we haven't been able to sit down and pay attention. I remember someone asking you, is this combat BJJ? And you were still looking at paperwork and you just answered, no, it's not. It's regular. And then, we're still looking down. We're not even really looking up. And I hear someone else go again, are you sure it's not combat BJJ? It's like, no, it's not. And then you look up, and the reason why they're asking is because they're slapping the shit out of each other, open palms across the face. And you're like, okay, well, I guess maybe there was a gentleman's agreement, or maybe there wasn't a gentleman's agreement, and just one person slapped and the other one started slapping back, and there you have it. But I guess apparently referee Luke Wilson, maybe he had let some things go. I guess it's kind of what I heard, or he had given some warnings about some other things. I'm not sure. I heard him explain to Austin Upchurch, because Upchurch had asked about a few things, or his corner had asked about a few, I guess, iffy strikes, and he just said, I've let enough go, and that was the final straw. So neither one were happy. Austin Upchurch obviously wasn't happy because he was disqualified, and I don't think Mac was happy because he didn't get to finish the fight, and that dude loves grappling.
No doubt. We'll look forward to having both those guys back. After that, we had 2 juniors bouts for K1 rules. We'll kind of hit those both together here, both in that 105-pound range. And it's really odd that we even had 4 girls in the same weight class, especially fighting the same night. So it's been kind of cool, a little emergence of the atomweight junior kickboxing division here at Aries Fight Series. Summer Emerson from Team NKI got us started first against Jessica Strong, 1-1 from X3 Sports. It was Jessica Strong who got the unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. All the 3 judges had the same 2-1 for Jessica Strong. Emerson, I thought, fought well. We just seen her fight last show where she stepped up short notice and fought Hannah Tucker, and she came up on the short end of that one. But she seemed like she was a little more aggressive in this fight. That said, Jessica Strong also very aggressive. I thought it was a super close first round. I thought the Strong was landing probably more strikes. Emerson was landing the heavier, more impactful strikes. Close fight all the way around here, and I hope to see both these ladies back again. It looked like Strong was already 17. She'll be ready for the adults here soon. The third bout of the night, also same division, atom weight ladies. It was the aforementioned Hannah Tucker, who we had seen last show fighting Summer Emerson, like we had mentioned, coming in at 1-0, representing Ben Kiker's United Karate Studios, and getting another win here with a 30-27 across the board unanimous decision shutout, 3-0 over Sarah Hatfield out of Hybrid Martial Arts in Kentucky. Hatfield, the more experienced fighter here, and the taller, rangier fighter, but much like the first time we saw Hannah Tucker, it was nonstop action. She closed the gap immediately and just was so aggressive and led with such a nice, sharp jab. It was really, really fun to watch. Sarah Hatfield, obviously very skilled, technical fighter, just needs to make a little better use of her advantages that she has there. She has that long reach. She just needs to kind of be able to go first and establish that jab, keep these girls like Hannah Tucker, who are very aggressive, off of her. That said, hey, they're 15, 16 years old. They're only going to grow. This is great experience for them. And I really look forward to as they progress and get to adulthood, they're already going to be seasoned fighters. Your take on the junior girls?
It's always fun. The girls definitely bring it. Like you were saying, Hatfield definitely probably the more skilled fighter, but at this game right here, it's all about volume. It seems like the last 2 shows that we've had this, your difference maker is just the action and volume. And Hannah Tucker, from bell to bell, does nothing but throw punches. Just comes forward and throws punches. So it's hard to get your shit off when someone keeps punching you in the face. So, wins Strong turning 18. I mean, maybe we can parlay one more time with Strong and Tucker.
Tucker makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. That'd actually be really good, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But hats off to Summer Emerson. We've seen her twice now, 2 shows in a row, and she's trying her best out there, and she's giving it her all. Like I said, she's just getting overwhelmed with volume, it seems.
And one thing about Emerson is, like, she's one that doesn't stop coming forward either. Like, she doesn't stop throwing, very game in there, and it's only a matter of time. I think she breaks through and gets that win. Then we had junior boys up next, and now we moved to the Muay Thai rules. So, the clinching and the knees are in play. It was another Team KI rep in Devin Emerson, the brother of Summer Emerson, coming in undefeated at 2-0, and he stays undefeated and moves to 3-0 with a TKO in round number 1 over the independent debut, Cameron McCoy out of Morristown. Both these gentlemen really came out strong. I thought McCoy he came out very, very aggressive, and I thought Emerson showed a lot of composure, kind of dealing with all that, and then started throwing some real nice knees to the body that affected McCoy a lot. To McCoy's credit, he got up both times that he was stopped and getting the count from referee Caleb Miller. But then the third time Caleb had to step in, that was 3 times in a round. And so it was a TKO win at 1:41 for Emerson. Emerson's one of these young bucks that, reminiscent of a young Tyler Jones, who we saw in the juniors coming up. He's 3-0 now. Be very interested to see when he turns 18 how he fares with the men. And as for McCoy, a sweetheart of a boy, very easy to work with. He wore the promised singlet for us, and I've already heard from him. He's actually, Jeff, he's going to come down to Chattanooga and give it a shot in our Gamma Youth event, and so he's not giving up on it, and good for him.
That's awesome. Devin Emerson looked really good, looked really skilled for his age. like you said, McCoy. How do you not like McCoy? He was so appreciative to be there. He was so rightfully so proud of himself that he did this and followed through. And like you said, as promised, he strapped on the singlet. The only thing he didn't do was Jerry Lawler, the son bitch, for me, and pull it down. But he'll learn, man. He'll learn. Uh, and it was awesome. And I'm not even trying to jump ahead. I know you mentioned him as possibly a young Tyler Jones. It's how I felt about David Isaacs later on, that
Yeah.
we're going to talk about here in a minute, who just really looked good. His body type, his body size, and how he looked. Another guy that kind of is following in the footsteps of Mr. Tyler Jones.
Up next, bout 5, it was time to, we stayed in the Muay Thai, but now we went on to the adults, so we lost the headgear for these next couple prelims, and man, this next one was fire. This stole the show, in my opinion, on the prelims. Very, very exciting fight. Featherweights. It was Ian Knight making his debut from Team NKI, taking on DeAndre Hill, who came in at 1-0 from the UFC Jim Murphysboro. Man, these guys, they threw down the whole time. Both guys showed incredible heart, incredible chins. I don't think either guy ever went down, actually, but both guys ate some shots that would put many men down. It was DeAndre Hill getting a split decision. It was 29-28 on 2 cards for him, 29-28 on 1 card for Ian Knight, so 2-1. Either way you look at it, can't argue it. After watching it back, it was super close. The first round, Hill was landing some bombs on Knight early. Knight withstood him and came back late in the round. And, we kind of noted over in the corner, I remember that, Hill has hit him with like the kitchen sink and Knight hasn't really budged yet. Is this going to be kind of defeating, if you will, to Hill? He's like, man, I've hit him so much. I'm starting to wind a little bit and he's not going away. I had it every bit of 1-1 going to the third. And I did think the judges got it right with 29-28 Hill, but outstanding showing from both guys. Really excited to see Ian Knight back in there because that guy, while he isn't the most technically sound, man, he's a brawler and he is very fun to watch. DeAndre Hill, on the other hand, I spoke to him after the show and he is ready to make that move and we will see him moving on to MMA next time. Jeff, your thought on this one?
Yeah, a good fight. I agree. Watching it back again just to make sure, I thought the judges had it right. But I also watched fights like that, and I put myself in our judges and seats for a second, and I can see where someone else may see a round differently than I do. So, one judge seeing one round, which when you look at a split decision, that's exactly what it is. That's the only difference is one judge seeing one round differently than the others. That's how razor thin, a split decision is. And I could see where possibly, that would happen in this, but I agreed with the decision. But those UFC Jim Murphysboro cats, man, they bring it no matter where we use them, in what style, whether it's MMA, kickboxing. They kind of do their own thing, only in the sense that, they corner each other. When they come out, the fighters corner each other. You don't really see, coaches come with them necessarily. It's a gang of the fighters supporting each other and going out and doing their thing. So it'll be interesting to see DeAndre, put on the small gloves and see what happens there. He had Cody Stewart in his corner, and Cody's somebody we know well. So again, those guys, they appreciate when things go their way and they win. They have a good time. They're very, very appreciative of our shows. They've always been thankful to you and to me for what we've done for them. So love working with those guys.
100%, man. Final prelim of the night, and this is the one that you had just mentioned earlier, lightweights, 155 pounds. It was David Isaacs, 2-0, representing Team NKI. A long run of Team NKI here in the kickboxing portion. He took on Daryl Woodall, also undefeated, 1-0 out of X3 in Athens, Georgia. This one was a bit more measured, it seemed like. It was obvious that these guys were, a little more composed, a little more skilled, and just a little further along in their games. We went all 3 rounds, and it was a majority decision, oddly enough. Of watching this live, I was like, hey, I needed a little bit of a double take. But it was 30-26 on one judge's scorecard in favor of Isaacs. There was a knockdown in the final round, which would explain that. There was 29-27 in favor of Isaacs, which would be 2 rounds to 1, including the knockdown. And then the where we get to the majority decision is the final judge had it 28-28, which would have actually been 2 rounds to 1 for Woodall, and then the 10-8 round with the knockdown. So I was a little, after watching it back, I still don't see that. So I was a little thrown off by the majority decision. I think that one should have been unanimous decision. At worst, the 29-27 score seems okay, but I'm all right with the 30-26 as well. Woodall was tough for sure, but Isaacs just kind of more composed, held that center, really kind of set down on his strikes. Whereas Woodall's footwork was just seemed a little bit off at times. Still very talented fighter. Love to have him back as well. And now David Isaacs next in line for the aforementioned Tyler Jones. That'll be what we see May 6th when we return to the Cotton Eye Joe. David Isaacs versus Tyler Jones for Jones's Muay Thai title. Those guys are built very, very similar styles. That's going to be a firefight.
Yeah. What a jump up for Isaacs. I mean, the kid's skilled. Tyler Jones, man. Yeah, to me, he's on another level, man. So hats off to anybody right now that's stepping to him. But Isaacs is there. He deserves it. His record shows it. And so the simple fact, there's not a big line for people wanting to step in there with Tyler Jones. So the fact that David Isaacs wants to, hats off to that man.
He's ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like you though. The draw was kind of weird to me, and in my spot sometimes jumping up in double duty on announcing. Sometimes you hate reading the scorecard because you look over and you've got a team that isn't really celebrating the win as much as they can, because even though
they heard that score,
even though the outcome is the way they wanted and they're excited that it's been said and it's over and he's won, they spend a few minutes contemplating how did that score happen, and if it was in their eyes, Don, don't quote me, but in their eyes, if it's that wrong, then how close were we to it really being wrong, right, and going the other way and really getting screwed? So, it's those awkward moments when you're reading a scorecard out and you look over that corner crew, that corner staff, and they're just like, what the hell? So if it wasn't for that knockdown, then what were we dealing with? Then a much closer fight. Now you've went from a majority to a split, in this case. But Isaacs was real skilled. Daryl Woodall was tough. I just don't think he had that precision, and that it sounds bad when you say he doesn't have the skill that another guy, but didn't have the skill that David Isaacs has. Didn't have the precision and the precise strikes that Isaacs does.
That was it for the prelims, and at that point, our man Greg Hopkins sitting there. He's like, "Man, this crowd, they really got a nice prelim show." A lot of the times it's, the prelims kind of fly under the radar and it's just kind of whatever. But these prelims really delivered. Did a nice job setting the table for the MMA, which we'll get into now. We started things off with a catch weight, 160 pounds. It was Stephen Kent looking for that first win, coming in 0-1 out of United Karate Studios. He's out of Murphy, North Carolina. Cross trains though with Travis Jones, Tyler Jones, and those guys. Looking for his first win. We'd seen Stephen Kent in there with tough guys. He'd lost his Thai debut to William Burnett, we know is very good. He lost his MMA debut to Daniel Gonzalez, a guy that was just in a number one contender fight. So, he'd already kind of been thrown to the wolves early. If he gets the win this time, as he gets a win over Trevor Carter in the first round. It was a TKO to strikes, 2 minutes and 6 seconds in. Trevor Carter was making his debut independently out of Saltville, Virginia. Had worked some with ring combat in the lead up to, but not enough in the gym to get their full backing in this fight, which, maybe that's a bit of a lesson learned for Trevor Carter. You don't put in the work, it's hard to reap the benefits of such. So he seemed like a great young man. It seemed like he's excited to get back in there, and hopefully he'll take his training a little bit more seriously next time. Congrats to Stephen Kent, who has toiled away and gotten that first win after a couple of really tough opponents. Your thoughts on this one we let off with?
Yeah, like you said, we see it plenty of times, man, where someone comes in and they'll fill out their paperwork and they put a gym down on paper and they're like, let's hold off before we start throwing that name around. I need you in the gym a little bit more if you're going to be representing us. But I'm happy for Stephen Kent. And you talked about the prelims and how exciting that was with the crowd. Stephen Kent kind of rolls right into that grouping of these guys that started out this card who sold a lot of tickets. That's what made that prelim part so nice was, the amount of NKI guys on there that sold tickets. You had Stephen Kent with VIP tables and some tickets. So, these early fights brought it. And so it was good to see Stephen Kent. He had his VIP crew there and getting to see him get his first win after, like you said, 2 really tough fights. So I'd like to see more from Stephen Kent for sure. I know this one was at a catch weight. Which way is he going?
He'd be at 55.
This?
Yeah,
Okay.
he'll be at 55. If
Okay.
decent size 55.
Yeah, so immediately he hits that 55 mark with a 500 record. There's definitely some options there for him quickly as soon as he wants to get back in. Trevor Carter, man, loved working with you, but get in the gym, man. Get in there with that ring combat crew 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and watch how your game progresses, man. Watch how things change for you, and then come back and show us what you got.
Light heavyweights up next. This was another fight between 2 debuts that were pretty tough debuts. Props to both these guys for stepping in there with each other in their first ever fight. Malik Jackson from American Top Team Atlanta taking on Jake Volbrick, Triple Crown MMA out of Florence, Kentucky. 2 very solid gyms. Again, both guys making their debut, and it was a war, man. These guys were throwing down hard for the first 2 rounds. Lots of scrambles. Jake Volbrick showed off that wrestling, but was starting to really kind of wear down, it looked like, in that 3rd round. Just didn't quite have enough juice left in the tank in that 3rd round to hold off Malik Jackson, who ended up getting the submission in the 3rd round. 53 seconds into the 3rd round. It was a war all the way to it, though. Some really heavy strikes thrown, some great takedowns, some great scrambles. Malik Jackson moves to 1-0 in a very shallow 205 division. He'll be knocking on the door for Zane Burton's 205 title before long with performances like that. Jake Volbrick obviously has some wrestling chops behind him and is well put together. He came in under by about 5 pounds on that fight, so he'll be looking to go down to 85 and join what's a nice crop of 185 guys right now, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these guys look good. You could tell on weigh-in day, this is that part of the card where you go, okay, shit's getting real now.
Right.
But, for 2 debut guys, I think, like you said, they came in and they started slinging leather, and they just, their debuts, and their debuts for a reason. They haven't had any experience, and I think they underestimated the old gas tank and how much this sport, sucks up that gas. And at gas prices now, it's hard to fill back up. So, because that's about the extent of what happened here. Was Volbrick was bringing it just like Malik Jackson was, but Volbrick's tank just went a little sooner. He just he gave it everything he had, and at this size and the amount of muscle mass that's on both of them too, I just don't think they understood how much oxygen that's taken at the pace that they were going to. But both these dudes looked good. Looked in shape. They just now have to translate it into MMA shape, fighting shape.
Flyweights up next, and we had Nick Ferguson taking on Jamie Lloyd. Nick Ferguson, we hadn't seen him in about a year or more, so he makes his return looking for that first win out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Jamie Lloyd we just saw at the Underground back a few months. I guess now it's been more like 4 months, 5 months, but he comes in at 1-1 looking to bounce off a loss there to Bryce Warner. Coming out of Cheatham, Bygod County, Tennessee. And this is a fun little scrap, man. We got about 2 minutes and 32 seconds into that first round, less than 30 seconds to go, when Lloyd sinks in that rear naked choke, gets the tap for Ferguson, moves to 2-1, and his fans were excited, and I know Jamie was excited. He was taking pictures with the belt and stuff the night before, giving some positive reaffirmation, some forward thinking, as his record now jumps back above 500, and similar to that 205 pool, the 125 pool is fairly shallow, so you can make some waves quickly.
Yeah, I was happy for both these guys, for different reasons, but Nick Ferguson has not had the best of luck in there, and this was the first time we've seen Nick Ferguson, look like he was having fun. Looked like he was way more comfortable, way more relaxed than we've seen him in the past. In the past, there's almost been just an overload of anxiety going into the cage, where you weren't even sure if he was going to complete the walk,
right?
Or put his foot on the step sometimes. But this was the most relaxed he's been. It looked like he felt good about the competition and the level of competition, and thought that he was in there. On the flip side, Jamie Lloyd, last time we saw him was on Underground 2
Hmm.
in his hometown, and got snuck up on by a really gritty Bryce Warner from Clarksville. And as much fun as Jamie tells you he has doing this and enjoys it, it had to have been a big letdown to not perform to the best of your abilities in your hometown in front of your crowd. And it's been eating at him for this long, since November, and he's held off on other shows for the right moment. And we're thankful that he chose us to give that to, because them backwoods uh, Cheatham Countyans will come out, to support them, win, lose, or draw. And they did. They made the trip. Not only did they make the trip to Knoxville by VIP tables, as soon as he was done, they left, because they were all had to be at work at 6 a.m. back in Nashville. So, they do the damn thing. So, hats off to both these guys, man. It was good to see Nick Ferguson feeling comfortable again, and believing in himself. And it was really nice to see Jamie Lloyd get that taste out of his mouth from Nashville the last time, and actually be able to enjoy a victory again with his fans.
This is when things started to get weird. Really
Yes.
weird for like 3 fights in a row. Weird. So up next, a fight that we were all really, really interested in. A fight that was very intriguing, especially even just your average fan. Catchweight, 150 pounds. It was Antoine Jennings out of American Top Team Atlanta, bringing his 1-0 record in to take on Brendan the Ninja Kelly, who is making his debut out of his own gym, Ultimate Ninja, up in Lexington, Kentucky. We talked about it on the preview. Brendan Kelly, a 5-time Ninja Warrior, and also American Ninja Warrior, and also 2 Guinness World Records he has for some really impressive feats.
Just go ahead and tell them. Tell the
I'll just
people at
say, all
home.
right. So yeah, so Brendan Kelly has got the record for the fastest mile ran backwards in 5 minutes and 55 seconds, which is insane because I can't run a 6-minute mile forwards. That's puts things into perspective. The other one is for the most pull-ups in 24 hours with 5,555, which is also mind-blowing to me. So you knew that this guy was going to have athleticism on his side, collegiate All-American in track and football as well, but had never fought in the cage. He'd done some rough and rowdy boxing, but this is his first time in the cage. He wanted to test his mettle, and he had a tough one to start out with. Antoine Jennings, tough mofo, so really odd fight. Like I said, the bell rings. It was early in the fight when Kelly went for a big takedown, big slam. Jennings grabbed the cage, in my opinion, fairly egregiously. I mean, to the point where we had like a horizontal Superman kind of situation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, ref didn't see that to call it. In my opinion, that greatly affected how the whole round played out, because it 100% affected the takedown not being there for Kelly. That round ended up being fairly competitive. I think Jennings edged it out with position after that. From there, second round begins, and that's where things get real weird. Just seconds into the second round, no one had touched each other at all. Jennings is kind of circling back, and then he falls to the ground, and he's clutching his knee. And I was watching it back, and I couldn't really see that there's any sort of weird step there, or if something just gave out, if maybe he came in and his knee was already a little wonky. But the referee, he steps in, he waves off the action, and at this point, I think everyone thought it was just done. It was one of those kind of fluke things where there was an injury, not a foul per se, or a foul at all. And the referee waves it off. You bring the doctor in to see to tend to Jennings, and at this point a conversation began, and I'm not sure who instigated it, but they began to ask Jennings if he could continue. Jennings got up, kind of started jogging in place, jumping up and down, said he's good, I'm good to go. And it was also surreal to me, I suppose, more than anything, that what was happening. I fault myself in a way for not just like hopping up and just getting in the middle of this and questioning it, but there was a gaze from the referee to the sanctioning rep, like, do we let this go, like in a questioning manner? Sanctioning rep says, mm-hmm. And they started that damn fight back up. At this point, you would have to imagine that Brendan Kelly has mentally checked out. He thinks this fight is over. He's kind of celebrating, not celebrating the injury of his opponent, but he thinks he's won the fight. to his surprise and many of our surprises, the fight was restarted at that point, and we made it through the end of the second round. And then before the third round began, Kelly retired due to exhaustion. Said he just couldn't get it up anymore, more or less. Understandable, honestly. A guy like that has world class athleticism, obviously, but I can't get into his brain and his mind and thinking and fault him for thinking, hey, this thing's over. I've got, and then hey, no, you go right back out there and fight that guy. So just a weird ending. He didn't answer the bell. So the initial ruling, Jeff, was a TKO stoppage for Jennings because it was the failure to answer the bell coming out of the corner by Brendan Kelly. I know that at the very least, after talking to the sanctioning rep afterward, that this will at the very least be changed to a no contest. Although I feel like there is an argument for Kelly to still get that win since the fight, in essence, was waived off, and anything that happened after it was waived off was inconsequential. Your take? I'm interested.
You've pretty much said it all, man. It's just in the simplest of terms, we should have never seen anything past that wave off. I mean, there's Janet's awesome pictures that she gives us after every show she works. I mean, there's a picture that says it all, and that is you see the ref with his hands crossed, coming out, and I almost sent you. It was a stream of three pictures in a row, and the top one was the wave, and then the next one was the hand being raised to the other guy. I was like, how did we get from here to here?
Yeah.
And you never want to throw anybody under the bus because nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, things like that. But I don't know if you have, got in the messages on the Aries email. I mean, I've been having to answer. I've been having to answer this question from, I guess, a lot of fans. And here's the thing: not Brendan Kelly fans. I mean, I've kind of even looked up people who's sending me this. Where are they from? They were just people watching and wanted to know how in the world did this happen.
Yeah.
We've gotten emails and private messages from people just want to know, and I've had to be honest with them. There's nothing to hide. There's like I said, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there's nothing to hide. And my answer to all of them was plain and simple: a sanctioning body made a mistake. They messed this one up. In no way, shape, or form. If a referee has waved off a fight, you see it time and time again in the UFC. Eye pokes, things like that, where there's been an injury happen. The fighter, screaming that he wants to continue. It doesn't matter. If a referee has waved off a fight, it's over. So, like I said, I don't know how we got from here to here. It was a mistake by the referee, but like I said, we all know referees make mistakes, but that's why you have Mark Ratner cage side at every UFC. You have a sanctioning body head, Jeff Mullins for Vegas.
That can step in there and say, "Hey, no, this is what the rule is." Right?
Yeah, like this is the interpretation of the rule, and somebody should have stepped in and said, "No, I know you're giving me the thumbs up that he can continue, but no, he cannot. You've already waved it off." And it's unfortunate that it happened that way because I believe, like you said, Brendan Kelly, he was not the experienced fighter. And he told us afterwards the reason why he, just didn't answer the bell. He's like, I underestimated the sport of MMA and the muscles that it uses. I am a supreme athlete, and I didn't realize he's like, my arms were jello.
He couldn't keep his hands up yet.
Yeah. And so you do everything you can. The cage hold was egregious. But, I was right there, and I'm seeing the referee's kind of down on all fours watching what's going on, and he doesn't see that this is happening underneath here. So, the ups and downs and getting to that spot where the fight was over, no matter how it ended, the fight was over. And I took that big gasp of, exhaustion. It's over. Hate the way it ended, but it's over. And then you've got the doctor coming in, examining them, the time that passes by, the adrenaline dump that had already happened is now even more relaxed. And then someone tells you got to stand back up and go again. I think we all knew what was about to happen after that. And it sucks. It sucks for Brendan Kelly. In a way, it kind of sucks for Antoine Jennings too, because, is he hurt? Is he, we don't know. It was an up and down for him too, Those are really nice guys from American Top Team, Atlanta, Georgia. All of them in that crew are really, really sweet gentlemen and nice. Jennings kind of got into the moment a little bit more than I liked at the end, screaming at Kelly that he better not quit. Don't you quit? Things like that. And it's like, okay, we need to tone it down a little bit, man, because let's really think about what just happened here. And
Right.
I hope Brendan Kelly does it again, man. I hope he gives it another shot. I really do. He said this was a bucket list thing, but this couldn't be the way he wanted his bucket list, experience to turn out.
Up next, we had Featherweight Females, our first female MMA fight in Aries. We finally got it to happen. Fight that was supposed to happen last show. We got it pushed back to this one due to the COVID, but this time we made it work. Karissa Hodge makes her debut out of Backwoods MMA up in Camden, Ohio, as she took on the undefeated Samantha Buttery, coming in at 2-0 out of Pedigo Submission Fighting in Corbin, Kentucky. Buttery with the experience here on paper, but Hodge, coming in with some, I guess what you would call smoker experience from the backwood brawls, and seemed very, very confident, very ready to go. And both these ladies made weight, and we had a nice scrap for the first round. I think both ladies had nice moments. Buttery rather showing off a little more striking in this win. This was, we knew that she could grapple, but she showed off some striking here. Takes the first round. I think that was without a doubt. And then I think Hodge, in between rounds, had that adrenaline dump and unable to answer the bell for the second round. So it's Samantha Buttery that gets the technical TKO as Hodge doesn't answer the bell. We'll call it 3 minutes since we got through the whole first round. Buttery moves to 3-0. I'd be excited to see where we go with her next. And Hodge seemed to enjoy the experience. Afterwards, she said, she's got a new respect for what kind of conditioning she needs to be in before she does this again, but she wants to do it again. She wants to get in, 4, 5, 6 months to really get herself in proper conditioning to come out here and give that another go. And that's always great to hear.
Yeah. We talk about some just weird things happening. I mean, also, I think we need to clear up, whether it's with the sanctioning body, the referees, is it a TKO or is it because I think they wanted to call this one a verbal submission. I think that's what they had me announce was verbal submission, because if the fighter says I'm done or I don't want to go out, then is it a verbal submission as opposed what constitutes it being a TKO? Just not saying anything and just not getting off your stool and coming out. So I'm always still confused when I think it's one thing and then they go, no, she verbally submitted. So it's like, okay, I don't know. So maybe we need to clear that up too.
I'm curious, before we proceed, just to expound on that just a little bit further, you figure, does some of that have to do with it being a technicality of sorts, where if somebody were to verbally submit, to use that loophole for suspensions purposes? So submissions don't typically carry any sort of suspension, but a TKO does. And so if somebody goes out there and verbally submits, and oftentimes in your low, not accusing anyone here of that, just saying that, and sometimes with your lower scale guys, your lower bottom tier pros, they know they've got a fight coming up the next month. They to avoid that suspension, they will verbally submit or submit in some fashion, so there is no no suspension that carries over with it. I don't know. I'm talking about my
hands. No, I mean it's. I think it absolutely has no bearing on this fight because as a debut, Karissa Hodge doesn't know about things like that, but it's definitely an interesting angle for probably your
why they call it that, maybe.
Yeah, on your more seasoned fighters who are thinking ahead. Possibly, but hell, I just want to get it cleared up because I don't know. I don't, like I said, what is the difference? Is it because they verbally said I'm done, the same as if in a fight if they looked at the ref and said I'm done?
Yeah.
But would it be a TKO if they just didn't answer but just didn't get off the stool? Ultimately, if you say I quit, I guess it's splitting hairs on whether it's a submission or not. But let's get back to the actual fight. Samantha Buttery looked good. Like I said, we'd really hoped that this fight happened last month. I'm glad now in hindsight that it was on this card because this was a really good card. Like you said, Buttery, I think it was important to her to show she's really, really proud of her training and how much she has put into it lately and the effort that she's given in the gym. and the things that she's learning. So I think it was important to her in this fight to show a different facet to her game. So I think that's why we saw more striking and less grappling. Because I think she's proud of what she's from submission fighting, pedigo submission fighting, but she wants to show we got stand up too. So she was using the jab, really well, trying to set things up. But just like the fight before with Brendan Kelly, I think Karissa Hodge just was not, wasn't aware at what this sport does to your body, and the muscles that you're using. And, we talk about at every level of the sport, the highest level, still going for guillotines when you don't have it and blowing out your arms, things like that. Or, when debuts and young fighters like Karissa Hodges, not knowing when to let go of things. Your natural instinct is to hold on and squeeze as tight as you can. And they don't realize when they don't have something or when they're actually doing themselves a disservice by holding on and squeezing that tight. Because when you finally do have to let go, then you've got nothing left and you're shaking them out because you have nothing left. And I think both Brendan Kelly and Karissa Hodge, it will take once, and they've learned that lesson. And I'm sure both of them will come back. Karissa, like you said, I think she's a gamer, and I think there's a lot of things out there for her. She's just going to have to go back to the drawing board. Samantha Butchery, sweet girl, after the fight was so appreciative of the experience, the opportunity, and man, I hope she made a big jump between her first fight that we've seen from her and the second one. So part of me wants to say, let's let some time go by and see how much better she can get. But I'm kind of, stingy. I don't want to wait too long to see her get back in there because I think she's got a lot to offer the promotion.
Main event on the amateur side, originally also scheduled to happen last month. This one also got pushed back to this month from COVID as well. It was due to be for the welterweight championship for Aries Fight Series, held by Dustin Hollywood Bailey, who had beaten Jordan Lewis before come in as the defending champion. It was the Peruvian hammer Richard Guerrero, who had COVID last month, so we had to push back to this month. And then the weight issues happen. Dustin Bailey comes in on championship weight. Richard Guerrero comes in at 181 pounds, egregiously over. And so the title was not on the line for Guerrero during this fight. To Guerrero's credit, he came out and fought well. He fought a lot better than I think a lot of people expected, especially especially Dustin Bailey. Yeah, you're right. I think Dustin Bailey and a lot of people honestly thought that, hey man, Guerrero has not prepared properly for this fight. He's 11 pounds overweight. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to blister him, and it's going to be that. And he really kind of did the first round. Bailey was touching him up. He landed a lot of great shots, but Richard wore them well and never really had that, I never saw just that injured, dazed, hurt look in his eyes, even though he was getting caught with some really heavy shots. Bailey not able to get the job done in the first, and then the second thing started to decline quickly. I think Bailey kind of emptied all his chambers on him in the first round, wasn't able to get him out of there, and then things started to turn Guerrero's way, who ends up getting the tap 2 minutes and 18 seconds into the second round. Rear naked choke, improves to 4-0. Bit of an asterisk on this one, a bit of a cloud hangs over it. I think for a lot of people, especially Dustin Bailey, I'm sure, and even to me to a degree, I felt just kind of weird after that one. Don't want to sour the performance of Richard Guerrero at the same time. Really fought well. I think if he can get back in there and make weight, then that is going to give us the ability to give him the proper accolades for a complete job well done. But I'd like to see that happen next for sure. I think Richard, I hope Richard has come out of this with a newfound dedication to making good on his commitments. I believe from what we've heard from his coaches, who obviously weren't happy about the situation either, they're going to have to prove he's going to have to prove it to them even before they're going to get behind him taking another fight. All that said, one more time, congrats to Richard for a good performance out there. Not real happy about the weight cut issue, but as far as performance in the cage goes, he did really well. Dustin Bailey, head up, another guy that, he did everything the right way. He cut the weight. He put himself through the the shitty part of it, and to make the 170 pounds. So giving up 10 pounds plus here was an uphill climb that I think a lot of people thought he would still probably make. And so I still think that the ceiling is very high for Dustin Bailey. Hopefully he doesn't let this get him too down mentally. He doesn't seem like the type that will.
Yeah, this one's tough for me to talk about. We're here to talk about the fights themselves and the
Sure.
performances.
We want to keep it real where we can, though.
But I cannot take off an owner / promoter hat in this situation. And Richard Guerrero disappointed me on quite a few levels this weekend. At the end of the day, I think Richard took a lot of losses this weekend. He lost the being to weigh-ins on time. He lost the weight on the scale. He lost the being on time to the rules meeting on fight day. A lot of things as a promoter that were disappointing to me. So that being said, I think Richards in his head knows he took a lot of L's this weekend and wasn't going to take any more, and at least was going to make the best of it. Going to make the best of it. He was going to win something this weekend, and he won the fight. He's got to fix something. I don't know if it was necessarily not being dedicated or if it was too many fires in the oven personally with jobs. And I know he's starting a new company on his own and things like that. And so there's a balance there, but it's a balance every fighter has to do, not just Richard Guerrero. Every fighter on this card has to balance something in their life with this sport. And he's going to have to do a better job of that. Now, at the end of the day, once the cage door closed, hell, even really before then, as soon as Dustin Bailey said, we're still fighting, all that's over now, and it's all about, the fighting. I don't think that the weight difference had any bearing on the contest in the cage. I think this was a matter of Richard Guerrero just kept coming forward and got in Dustin Bailey's face, where most opponents with Dustin Bailey's stand at bay, stand at reach, and they let Dustin have his opportunity to get his shit off and fight his game. And Guerrero was just dead set on smothering Dustin Bailey to where he can't get his shit off and he's going to stifle it. Richard did look completely exhausted pretty much most of this fight. There was a time I looked up and his mouth was wide open, and I've never seen the amount of spit just fall out of someone's mouth before. Sprung from his mouthpiece down to the floor almost. And I thought, man, he's got nothing. He was a sweaty mess, drool coming out. But he had tunnel vision in this fight, and it was, I'm just going to keep coming forward. I'm going to keep pressure, and hopefully I can get Dustin to fold under the pressure, and that's what happened. My hats really go off to the Agogi coaches and the Agogi team because they celebrated the accomplishment, but they didn't allow too much celebration for the whole moment, if that makes any sense. At this point, I was ready to start some post fight interviews. Coaching staff, man, so classy and much respect, said no. There's nothing to talk about right now. The fight's over. We got some things we got to work on in the gym with this weight cut issue. And, again, we try to keep it as real as we can on here without, putting too much people's business out there. But, when the coaches say, make the weight and then you can talk on the mic, I mean, that's got my respect from his coaching staff. Richard's a really good kid, man, and we've always had such good interactions with him. I don't want what I've just said to, mar any of that, because it does not change the fact that Richard Guerrero is a good person. He just fucked up this weekend on a few different levels, and I guarantee you Richard Guerrero will fix them, on the next one. And if he doesn't, we won't know it because he won't be in there, because his coaches don't sound like they're going to let him in there if he don't fix it. So I guarantee the next time we see Richard Guerrero, all this will be fixed.
Let's go to the pros. Man, some real fun pro fights. Kicked it off with featherweight bout, 145 pounds. Austin Carter versus the Kurdish King, Muay. Both gentlemen making their professional debuts. Great fight, man. Yeah, I'm going to let you lead us on this one, Jeff, so I don't just say it all. But this one was back and forth. It was Avamai that ended up getting the win by split decision here in a very, very good fight.
Man, it was such a good fight. And I think we all had the thought, that this was going to be a good fight. Ava brings in, not a lot of people excuse me, know Austin Carter or know of his background and history because all his fights, just about every fight, and he had what, like 7 amateur fights, maybe
Yeah,
5 and
yeah.
2, something like that.
Hmm.
But all of them have been in Louisiana or another state. He trains at NKI in Knoxville, but everything has been pretty much in Louisiana, so nobody knows his. So that being said, I think everybody who knew Avamai from his amateur days in the state of Tennessee and through the Valor promotion and his time in UMAF
Hmm.
tournaments and things like that, or UMAF fights, everybody that knew them, I think, assumed that Ava coming back, he's bigger, he's more mature. And I mean, body wise, he's grown into his body and he's more mature. And we know the Ava we saw from the past, and I think the majority of the people thought that Ava this was going to be easy work for Ava, but only because they didn't know Austin Carter. Holy shit. Austin Carter brought it, and he was obviously. You look at the scorecards; he was in this fight very much. In fact, he won the fight on one judge's scorecard. So, what a hell of a fight, man! This was just back and forth. Um, Ava looked really good and with some precise striking. But then he would go into these times where he would play that cover up game and he would allow Austin Carter to get off combinations and just cover up and just kind of let him, I don't know, maybe thinking he's going to, tire himself out. He was blocking most of them. But again, in 4-ounce gloves, you can't do that shit. And he was letting Austin Carter add up points,
Hmm.
in the judge's eyes. And Avo would be the first one to admit, and I know he has since I've talked to him. He's like, I knew. Avo told me I knew from the first shot he took. Holy shit, this guy knows how to wrestle. His technique on his double leg, Avo said, I knew immediately this guy has got a wrestling background that I didn't know, and you could tell they were very skilled and very timely wrestling based takedowns. And first round, I think, in my opinion, clearly was Ava. Second round was Carter. He spent a lot of time on top, in the second round. And so we both had it, I think, 1-1 going in the
Hmm.
third round. I even got a text from Ava's manager going, 1-1. This is it.
Yeah.
That's all he sent was 1-1. This is it. Um, it didn't look good at first because Austin Carter got an early takedown, and I looked at the clock and I thought this is way too early for a takedown. If he can stay down most of this round in this position, this is going to be bad for Ava. But Ava just kind of, I think he knew in his head that this third round was so important to the outcome of this fight. He was able to get an underhook and sweep them around and get that top position back and in most of the fight, in that controlled position. Um, I was very impressed in some of the stand up in the clinch. I think towards the latter of the second round and maybe the third, we started seeing those elbows, those
Hmm.
Chambori elbows coming through, those short range upward and elbows come through.
And leading with him too sometimes.
Yes, yes, and so I think that was starting to do some damage. But all in all, man, holy shit, what a fight, man! This was at the end of the day, this type of pro debuts. Both guys gained so much from this being their debut fight. Going into whoever both of these guys fight in their second sophomore outing, whoever fights Austin Carter is probably going to be in some trouble because of the level of competition he saw in his first round, and same for Ava. Uh, I feel bad for whoever he fights in his second fight because Ava learned a lot as well from this close victory.
I would agree. I think both these guys certainly will come out of this with their stock raised. Austin Carter will drop to 135 from here, and I think he'll be a problem for a lot of men.
Oh.
And not so, really, from obviously he had good takedowns as well. But I thought what was the most impressive was the fact that Ava really struggled so much to just do anything with him when he was going for takedowns. He's
Mhm.
very hard to take down himself, just really hard to move the guy around. Ava, on the other hand, I think he wins here because the 2 year layoff, I don't think it would have done him a whole lot of good to come in here and just start someone in a few seconds. And there would still just be a lot of unanswered questions as to where he stands coming back. Getting to go a full 15 minutes, proving that he can go a full 15 minutes against a tough guy, maybe showing him a few places that he still needs to kind of tighten up. it's a win for him as well. So both these guys I'm looking forward to working with in the future, and I think both of them have a bright future. Let's get to the co-main event. Corey Delaney takes on Alex the Trojan Riggs. Epic entrance music for Alex the Trojan Riggs this time, I thought. Delaney comes in at 2-5. Riggs comes in at 2-3. The odds on this one were the closest of any of the fights, and I thought this would be the hardest fight to call as well. Ends up being the quickest. Actually, it may not have been the quickest. The main event may have been a little bit quicker, but probably the most quick and decisive fight that I've seen out of Alex Riggs in a long, maybe ever, I guess. Now that I think about it, Corey Delaney did pretty well standing. I thought actually opened a decent little cut above the eyelid of Riggs that was in a bad spot, actually. Had that fight continued and that cut got worse and worked on more, that actually wasn't a real good spot for it. However, Delaney showed some poor fight IQ, I thought, here. Got the takedown when he was doing well in the striking, and within seconds being taken down, Riggs had latched on a triangle and gets the tap. Moves his record back to 500 now, 3-3 for Alex Riggs. They're representing Shield Systems. Had a rowdy crowd in effect. Corey Delaney drops to 2-6. I feel like they know what the problem is. I feel like we talk about the problem before the fights, and it seems for whatever reason, Corey just can't seem to help himself for just instinctively going for those takedowns against the guys that he probably shouldn't be forcing those against. That said, before this fight, I didn't necessarily give Alex Riggs the credit he may have deserved to have the chops to throw something up like that on him so easily, so quickly. So maybe Riggs is just leveling up, as Shield System, and his ground game's coming up to equal his striking.
Yeah, you said it in a nutshell there. We remember the last fight in Chattanooga back in October. Corey Delaney immediately shoots and takes down David Robbins. And his corner is screaming, "What are you doing? Let him back up. Get back up." After the fight, that was the most frustrating thing for his coaching staff was we train this, we work this over and over again.
Well, that was on the heels of the same thing happening to Wes Wilson.
Right. Keep it on the ground. So, but like you said, which is 100% correct, this is a completely different story where with David Robbins, that was the, complete opposite game plan he should have done. I don't think they thought that it would be the wrong game plan necessarily with Alex Riggs. In hindsight now, yes, it was. You were having success in the stand-up. You probably should have kept it there. But I can't say that they made a tactical error because
Riggs hasn't shown that.
My surprise in the post-fight interview was like, "What the hell was that?
Right?
Where are you learning triangles, Alex?" Like he doesn't have a world-class, jiu-jitsu coach, in his gym, because he does. So I shouldn't have been surprised. But you just don't. We've known Alex for a long time. You just
hadn't shown it.
Yeah, you don't see those kind of things. We thought, his takedown defense is really getting good. His wrestling is getting better. A stand-up is really getting better. Those are all the places we thought we were seeing improvement in Alex Riggs. And now we've seen there is one other place that he is improving on greatly because he was real composed in it. He locked it in quick. And again, Alex Riggs has found himself back at 500. Love his crowd. They're a little late arriving, but I immediately knew when they were there because I turned around and there was nothing but white T-shirts on one whole side of the crowd. And they make it real difficult for his opponent to get to the cage. I don't know if you've noticed that, Tim.
They do.
They make it real difficult for the opponent to make it to the cage. They almost barricade and stand in his way, which is, a ballsy thing to do, hats off to Alex Riggs, man. I love this kid. I always have. Just because he's such a nice guy, and I know he works so hard. And like we talked about in the post-fight interview, you got to love a guy that gets probably beat up as much as he does, and everybody else is punching bag Monday through Thursday. When he gets to finally have his moment, go out on Friday and shine, and it be about him and look in his corner, and there's Scott Holtzman, in his corner, and Coach Ben. I know it means the world to him to be able to show them that, he's got the goods too.
Main event time. Bantamweight action, 135 pounds, two undefeated pros going at it. It was Featherfoot Dusty Little representing the NKI there in Knoxville, defending his home turf against the Knoxville's adopted son, according to Robbie, Razor Robbie Ring. who is defending that 3-0 record coming down from Ring Combat Sports in Whitfield, Virginia. Self-proclaimed Knoxville's adopted son. And hell, man, Knoxville turned into a mini Whitfield for the evening because there was a lot of Razor Robert fans out there. Crazy first interaction. The first 30 seconds of this fight was a whirl. It was nuts. Both guys landing, throwing crazy. And at the moment, I was like, well, this is kind of probably the fight that Dusty wants to be in, just the crazy chaos. And maybe he'll find something in the chaos. And it looked like he got Robbie to kind of get a little unhinged for a few seconds. But before, it didn't take but a couple seconds before Robbie kind of like zoned back in, took him down with a vengeance, and hit the Darce choke to put Dusty Little out. About a minute, right about a minute in, I guess. Robbie moves to 4-0 and cuts a subtle heel promo afterward. I liked it. Props to both guys. Loved working with them both. Dusty Little, of course, will be back, and now at 1-1. Lots of fun fights for him out there too. But Robbie Ring's calling for that Aries Pro title. And right now, I haven't seen too many bantamweights around here that would be more deserving.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Robbie, he got the job done. Got on the mic and let everybody know, I'll be your Huckleberry. Step up if you want to. And yeah, I don't know, maybe new school heel turn where you don't know if he's a heel or a fan favorite.
Right,
maybe a new school wrestling heel. But Whitfield, Virginia was in the house. They were in the house at the Joe. They were in the house at Denny's afterwards, raising hell in Denny's afterwards. And Robbie made no bones about it. He got on the mic and he called out, the guy who backed out on the fight who dropped from the fight. He called out a guy in one of the Carolinas or Virginias that, he feels is ducking him over there. A little bit I've seen this weekend, questioning Robbie's resume or past opponents, but the guy is standing in the cage every time saying,
yeah, he wants these.
Give me the guys that you're saying that I haven't fought, and again, the fact he quickly signed the dotted line, for Edward Massey. So obviously he's not dodging or ducking tough competitions. He's asking for it, and he's signing contracts saying, I will fight him. So he can't help who the hell, won't fight and who does fight. He just wants to fight, and he wants to prove to everybody. It's his goal to prove to everybody that he is that good. And he can't make people sign the dotted line. But I will tell you 100% honest truth. He's asking for those guys that some people are out there saying that, he hasn't fought or won't fight. That is definitely not the case because he wants them. So the offer is out there. He has put it out there, and Robbie's just savvy enough that he'll probably, if we just send him an open contract, he'll sign one side of it and say, go find somebody to sign the other side. So he's got a very good head on his shoulder. He comes from a great family. Dusty Little's just fun, man. He's fun to be around. He's such a good kid. And like you said, he's still at 1-1 now. He's still early in the infancy of a pro career. And there are so many other good fights out there for Dusty Little that we can put together. Don't look at this card and say that it was a bad night for NKI, because it wasn't. Because they win they win some, they lose some, but you know what? They're back in the game, and they're competing, and they're sending lots of guys out to compete now in their hometown, which is something they haven't been able to do in the past. And they're winning, or they're learning. That old cliche that you hear in MMA, they're definitely doing that. And as a group, they sold almost 100 tickets themselves, actually more than 100 if you count online. I'm just thinking paper tickets. So their support is there. So it was a win for Team NKI, on this show and in Knoxville. And actually, honestly, the past few shows for Aries in Knoxville have been wins for NKI because they're back, and they're competing.
Right. And if you look at it, even though they took some L's that night, none of those L's were like just bad.
No.
They were mainly decisions, that were closely fought.
And the stock that went up on Austin Carter in a L, holy shit.
No doubt. I'm very happy to have them back. I'm happy for Robbie Ring as well, 4-0, and hopefully we've got some things starting to twist and turn out there in
Yeah.
the coming months. That I think there's some very very exciting things in the future for Razor Robbie Ring. That's going to do it, man. We got through this thing right at an hour. A great
Yeah.
card. We got through 15 bouts here, and now we've got about a 6-week break. We're going to be coming back to Chattanooga for Aries. It'll be Aries 6, and that one's going to be April the 16th at the Camp Jordan Arena. In the coming weeks, we'll start releasing fights. Well, of course, we'll do interviews and get the whole thing out to you guys. There's some real good stuff in the mix. I guess we can already say, since we announced it there, the first fight we'll go and put out there, 155 title on the line.
Yeah.
Craig French versus Justin Jamar going down April 16th. If you know these guys, you know that's going to be fire. Both these guys really bring it. Both really good dudes.
If you haven't watched if you're still going to go to spectation, watch the face-off between these two. It was friendly at first, and they kind of 2 feet away from each other, but slowly, they kind of started getting a little closer. And we had, it's one of those times we had to tell them, okay, we're good, because they wanted to stay there for a little while. But holy shit, Tim, how are we here already? 6. We're ready for Aries 6, man. We just started this shit, it seems like yesterday, and we're already up to number 6. I mean, it seems like we've been doing this for so long, and we go through these moments where it's like we have these just incredible like marathon runs where it's like, how the hell, Aries 1 and 2 were 7 days apart.
Mm-hmm. Then Macon, the Macon show.
Well, November we had Aries and our help with the underground, so we ran 2 that month. Then our co-promotion in Macon, where we had our show, and then ran straight to there.
Then right back around. Really, that was 3 shows in 5 or 6 weeks. So
that's crazy.
Hey, man, no rest for the wicked. I wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
Stay tuned, folks. 2022 is going to be a good one. We've got some things in the works that we can't wait to share with you guys. 2022 is going to be a big jumping off point for us and all the people that have stuck with us. So very, very excited for it. Before we let you guys go, one more time, give us a like. Give us on our Facebook at Aries Fights series, and as well as Instagram. And then if you would subscribe here and give us a like, that would be awesome. We'll be back here. I guess, when are we back, Jeff? I guess we may do. We'll start booking some interviews, I guess, here, and we'll be back here in, I guess, about a week. And we'll be back with starting to build that scene towards Aries 6. We got a lot of good fights that we know about that we're going to have to let you guys know about soon. We got some much anticipated pro debuts. We've got some familiar faces. We've got a contender series vet lined up. We got some title fights. It's going to be a really, really good show. And then there's the Gamma Youth event earlier in the day. So it's going to be a busy next 6 weeks getting ready for this one, but I'm excited for it. Any parting words, Jeff?
Yeah, again, like you said, hit the subscribe button, because we do have such a gap in between, this past show and Aries 6. We're going to step out here in the coming weeks, and we're going to do some interviews with not just fighters. We're going to go ahead and get some talks with some of your top MMA management, guys. We're going to talk to some coaches from some of the bigger gyms in the country. We're gonna step out there and we're gonna talk to a few people since we got some time. We don't need to cram everything in because we got a show in 3 weeks. So we're gonna try to get out there and get some interesting interviews from guys that I think that a lot of you that are religiously and dedicated to watching the show will be interested to hear from.
Very excited for the coming months. Thank you guys for being with us for another edition of the 0 Hour. For my man Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd signing out. Until next time, thanks a bunch for sitting in.